Hi, this is Barb Crowley, and welcome to Metaphysics of View Through the Veil. I'm here today with Ruslana Remenikova. Oh,
Hi, Barb.
who
It's
I'm
so
going to call Ru from here on in. She is a former scientist for the Fortune 500 ranked company, Thermo Fisher Scientific, where she specialized in vaccine scientists. She took a leap of faith in 2016, leaving the corporate world, which I did too. What a relief that was, right? Um, to establish a sound medicine practice and embark on her first book project, which is we're going to talk about today, activating our 12-stranded DNA. And I'm going to have her go through the whole title, but um, and she now is working with VCU Health Systems. I don't know who they are, but you're collaborating with them on their sound therapy with patients. So, listen, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you. And as we were talking right before, I love having scientific as well as the metaphysical. So, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Barb. It's an honor to be on your show. Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone out there, for listening. I'm really just delighted to talk a little bit more about the future of DNA and also the
Right.
past of DNA
If you
and where
call
we're
it the genetic revolution, DNA genetic revolution,
Yes,
minute one. And I
absolutely.
feel like we are on the edge of blowing all of this open, that we're going to be so much more than we are. We're going to know so much more than we do.
Absolutely. And we are seeing this in different phases of technology. AI is just a stepping stone
But
into where we're going as far as information storage, which DNA is the golden example of a memory bank. Many people already know, but 98% of our body doesn't code for protein, the DNA aspect. And so there's so much more to the story of what is actually this reservoir being used for then.
mhm,
And AI is an example. I also believe that as a collective, conscious and
right.
unconscious, can't just leave that part out. We're all sort of seeing the brinks of um, our humanity's awareness and consciousness being lifted. Um,
We're coming to the next step. But boy, this is a painful step to get out of, it seems like. It's like, oh, geez, you're killing me here. But yeah, we're
yes,
coming to the next step of a lighter, um, bigger community somehow. Yeah, and it's going
absolutely.
to be great. It's going to be great. Um, some of the things I'm going to bring you back a little bit, because some of the things I loved you talking about was memory and how, because to me, memory is, well, my memory kind of stinks, but anyway, but memory, most of us, is this lifetime. But you're saying, no, no, memory is consciousness, and memory is what's bringing us through all of our lifetimes, but also consciousness. And memory is life. Memory is, as I said, consciousness. And I was so fascinated by just that, that it was like, oh wow, that really does explain a lot, because we do bring the memories, in my opinion, with us after we leave here, and we come in. Um, Now I'm taking all your story. I'm sorry, because I also loved the part
No,
about, the turtle knows to go for the water, that it's in their being. And as humans, we know to behave a certain way, or it's just in our bodies, in our DNA. Now I'm going to give it to you, because I'm, but
no,
I had to say, I was just fascinated by those things.
yeah, thank you so much for
For
the
taking it from me.
story.
Sorry
No,
about that.
this is perfect. This is perfect.
Mm.
So many of us kind of get attached to this idea that all of our memory is stored in our brain. Okay.
Right. Right.
And our brain is a powerful tuner
Hmm.
to so many of the functionalities that we need to survive. But there's also some kind of the big elephant in the room,
Yeah.
and that's our DNA.
Yeah.
Our DNA is so much more. And also there's so much information that we simply just don't know about our DNA.
I know. Most of us think of ancestral. We'll take a DNA test and say, well, who are our relatives? Where did we come from? And that's the extent of everything we know about DNA. Or we'll have brown eyes or, something like that. But it really is
Right.
pretty basic. Yeah.
We see the phenotype. We see a person's aesthetic, and we sort of just, as 3D beings, sort of forget about the rest, right?
Right. Or
But
don't know about the rest to even forget about it. Yeah.
don't know about the rest, right?
Yeah.
So part of the journey in each person's life that I feel each person sort of gets to a crossroads is that they start to have a moment of curiosity about who they really are,
Hmm.
right? And that's where a person starts to ask some profound fundamental questions. And in my book, I go over a practice where you can look at yourself in the mirror and ask questions by looking at yourself.
Yeah.
Like, for example, who are you?
Hmm.
Who are you? And it's a lot more intimate, of course, when you're mirror to mirror. But what that
Right.
does is it's activating those intergenerational ethereal memories that you and I are bringing forth. Now, there's a lot of other types of memories that I want to acknowledge that are a lot more scientifically based and empirical, and those are all important. But what you and I are talking about is a little bit
Right.
more of an ethereal um, realm, which
Hmm.
I believe is one of the most important ones. This is where our astral bodies exist. This is where the dream world exists. This is where the
Right.
unconscious world exists. And so DNA is an active site where the consciousness from source, from creation, is streaming in. And so DNA is that complex molecule that is a lot more elaborate than what we've prepared 72 years ago as a double helix. It's a lot more elaborate, and it is an active site for um, magnetizing it and receiving that information so that we can start processing more than what is being expressed, um, like such as brown hair or brown eyes
Right.
or even functionality. It becomes more of a spiritual awakening.
Hmm.
So I think that's what you were elaborating upon. And there are so many examples in history where scientists are unraveling that the brain is beyond just, what we know about it. For example, a famous neurophysiologist, Carl Lashley, showed that when he was removing parts of a rat's brain, sorry, rats. In my book, I say that's just how science is. But
Right.
what he showed was he taught the rats to do tricks, and then he
Hmm.
removed 50% mass of their brain. They healed, and then and he proved that the rats can still perform the same tricks.
So
So
where
where
is memory?
exactly?
Yeah.
In octopus, we know that the brains of the octopus is the actual DNA that is in each tentacle. That's been
Mhm.
proven by science.
How did
That
they
is the,
figure that out? They just chopped off parts?
well, they actually learned the adaptations of the octopus being uh, in different environments. For
Hmm.
example, they studied how octopus um, can change its own body temperature based off of where it is for fitness and for survival.
Right.
It changes its color. it has so many capabilities. And random fact, discovered 33,000 genes that are not terrestrial to Earth.
Oh, wow.
Just have to throw that in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty fascinating.
Another scientist, Wilder Penfield, concluded that the memory is not stored in the cortex of the brain as well. So I wanted to just share that memory is not uh,
Mhm.
just limited to the brain. Another fascinating example is Julius Adler, who studied E. coli.
Mhm.
Um, so E. coli, he wanted to see how E. coli would learn based off of memory.
Mhm.
So what he saw that E. coli did was that in a pool in a little medium, he put something that would trigger the E. coli, and what they did was they coalesced together, they investigated what that substance was, and then they navigated away from that substance. So they learned from, electrical impulses, but when they felt safe, then they dispersed again. But
Yeah.
he showed how the genes, how the biochemistry of bacteria, which is a simple organism, a unicellular organism, is able to understand and to remember
Mm-hmm.
what is a threat by its own DNA.
Right.
So
Now, did the DNA have that information before, or did it actually learn that this is a threat? Did it, like,
it learned by
was it
negative feedback.
was it born with the memory, or did it learn the memory? Did it learn it
So
with DNA?
in this specific example, it learned it. So
Okay. Yeah.
it was able to adapt by negative feedback. So
Mm-hmm.
we introduced a negative sort of character, right?
Right.
It
Right.
it swam up to and thought, oh no, trouble, swam away.
Mm-hmm.
But then it learned so that's what we call negative feedback. We learned it needed to learn how to survive. So that's the positive
Right.
aspect of it. So it had to learn by negative feedback. We introduced something that is going to trigger its survival rate.
Mm-hmm. It's like
Yeah,
something that's bitter to us. Well, I'm not a scientist, so I hope I have this right. Is often don't eat that.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is exactly negative feedback.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, And so in life, all in some aspect, all of us have experienced what a negative feedback is. For
Yeah.
instance, relationships, we start to see patterns in people where we remember this, someone who kind of becomes flaky and doesn't show up many times.
Right.
We start to see sort of mechanisms and how they behave, and we start relating that in our life, and
Hmm.
we decide, do we want to continue do we recognize those mechanisms?
Yeah.
And, and that's how we become more intelligent beings, is
Hmm.
that we go through different environmental stimuluses, because remember, we are made from bacteria too.
Oh, I know.
Not
Don't
separate
we
from
have
bacteria.
more bacteria than human cells in us? I remember hearing that and thinking, yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's part of the miracle. That's part of being
Yeah.
the fun part of 3D, is that, we are divine beings, but we're
Hmm.
also so earthly, and
Right.
in a really complex but excitingly extravagant scientific spiritual way. We're both. We're all of
Right.
it.
And that's
And
what's
so
so exciting now because to see those two start to be accepted, I think, where I don't know, well, maybe they were accepted like 1,000 years ago, but well, they didn't have as much biology then. We have more biology than spirituality. I think we're on the verge of the spiritual part of it than the
absolutely.
biology part.
I think more people are starting to accept that
Hmm.
uh that spirituality is the seed of science. So science is concretized from
Hmm.
spirituality.
Yeah.
And in this era that we live in now, we're starting to see more sacred geometry symbols,
Hmm.
which came from our ancients and the wisdom that has been passed on
Right.
intergenerationally. But we are incorporating that into scientific discovery. For
Hmm.
instance, Armin Spitz, who discovered he was one of the first people to manufacture projectors into at so we can see the solar
Hmm.
system. And at the time, he was using a sort of shape that wasn't really working well. So he
Yeah.
asked Albert Einstein, what would he suggest words to use? Best person to ask probably
Right,
next.
exactly. Let's pick his brain. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so Albert Einstein recommended the dodecahedron. Well, for those who are kind of that's a big word, the
I'm
dodecahedron.
thinking I'm one of those people. What is
Right.
that? Yeah.
Right. So the dodecahedron was introduced by Plato thousands of years ago. But more originally, it was originally Pythagoreans that introduced this sort of new relationship with how we can calculate the divine in the 3D world through geometry. So the
Hmm.
Pythagoreans introduced Plato and the Pythagoreans introduced the Platonic solids, and one of the Platonic solids is the dodecahedron. So I don't know if you're gonna like show it on the show or do like little images, but the dodecahedron
Well,
has
we're putting you on YouTube as well, so anybody wants
oh
to watch can come to the YouTube thing, A View Through the Veil.
oh okay
And
okay
so,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
so you can show it, but you're going to have to show it because you kind of lost me a little bit in that.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean
No,
to
that's
lose.
okay. No,
I
it's
don't mean
okay because that's my job to say, okay, bring it back into English. Yeah.
So the dodecahedron has 12 faces that are 12 pentagons. Pentagons is a five-sided geometry shape. It's got
Okay.
20 vertices and then 30 edges. Now, all of that doesn't really, it's not necessary to understand.
Hmm.
But what is necessary to understand is that when Plato, the Pythagoreans and Plato introduced these Platonic solids, each solid symbolized an element of the earth.
Hmm.
Okay. So the dodecahedron symbolized ether
Hmm.
and the universe.
Yeah.
Ether and the universe. So that was the magic puzzle to sorry, piece to the puzzle is that the dodecahedron was used to create these projectors. And so he sold millions of them. He made them smaller. The first one
Yeah.
was quite big, but he created a small dodecahedron for like kids can have them as toys.
Right. Right.
Um, but that's an example of how we're taking more spiritual, but also fundamental shapes that are found in nature
Hmm.
and are implementing them into the scientific realm.
Don't you kind of feel like we knew more like 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago than we know now? Like somehow we've gotten consistently more stupid.
Well, yes, I do. It's just so fascinating how our elders knew so
Mhm.
much more without the technology and the empirical data to have
Right.
to reduce it into numbers. I love numbers, by the way. But and I also
Scientist, scientist.
Right. And I'm also pro data and showing the science behind it because that's where the exciting merge of spirituality
Yeah.
and science happen. But for our ancients, our ancestors who just trusted the wisdom that was given to them. For example, the hypogeum of Halsaflini, which is in Malta, thousands of years old. But the
What is
information,
that? What is that?
sorry, I sometimes race,
No, that's good. I'll jump in.
but it's an underground temple.
Mm.
And the underground temple is where people used to go to heal using sound.
Oh,
So it was we were taught
Mhm.
that the hypogeum was actually uh intentionally constructed and so that the walls all emitted
Reverberated.
it reverberated a specific frequency.
Hmm.
Scientists now are calculating what that frequency is and was, and it was 100 hertz or 111 hertz. It was a symmetrical number.
Wow.
Well, again, ancients didn't know that at the time, but they still constructed these
Yeah.
divine underground temples. And now what we know about sound is that these frequencies that they were using to heal, I mean, these frequencies are very penetrative. You can feel your bones. There's a lot of cellular healing that's taking place. And so scientists are proving that now is that
Mhm.
these frequencies are actually repairing our cells. They are bursting through cancer cells as well.
Wow.
Um,
I didn't
it's
realize that they had gotten that far along with the science part, or they were really using it enough yet. You
oh
know,
yes,
I mean, I know the crystal bowls and all of that, but
yeah.
it's kind of without the science behind it. I'm not sure we know what we're doing. Yeah. Be honest.
There was a study that came out, and more studies are coming out like this. I'm just
Mhm.
referencing one of them. But
Right.
last year in 2024, there was a study where there is a HeLa cell that was being tested. So HeLa stands for Henrietta Lacks, the first two letters of the first and the last name.
Hmm.
And what this cell was dubbed as was immortal. It was a cancer cervical cell line. And the reason why is it just kept coming back. The scientists were scratching their heads. What do we do with this? How do we
Right.
reduce this? How do we treat it? So they actually bursted it with sound. They used a dissonant xylophone frequency and showed that the cell can be ruptured and reduced. So they started using the treatment this way.
How do you know you're rupturing the right cell? You're not
Well,
rupturing the cell. Oh, we needed that one. How do you
right.
know?
So currently what I do is I do frequency work
Hmm.
with with patients that are in palliative and also oncology. And I'm actually
Which
really
is care and cancer. I'm just for
right,
people who don't know those words.
right,
Palliative is to make comfortable, right?
correct.
And then oncology is cancer.
Right. In the palliative unit, usually the patients are mostly terminal or
Mhm.
they are dealing with an
They're
illness.
usually at the end of their life in a hospice situation,
A
I
lot
think,
of them
right?
do go to hospice, correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of them who are in chronic pain
Hmm.
from a different kind of condition. And so, and in palliative care, there's also cancer patients. So
Hmm.
that's
Right.
the pool that I usually work with. Not everyone that's terminal, I just want to say goes to palliative,
Right.
but
Right.
anyway, so I work with cancer patients, and I've noticed that when it only takes 15 minutes, by the way, I come in with my bowls, and it's such a primitive
Mhm.
setup. I feel like the French Dr. Diogenes when he used to arrive with his instruments and he would just play like a violin and then measure the vitals of each person and see the differences. But that's kind of what I'm doing in the modern
Yeah.
age is I'm bringing my bowls in,
Hmm.
set up literally right next to these patients' beds, and I
Right.
play for them. And in 15 minutes, I they report to me that their chronic pain or nausea is gone. It's completely gone. But most importantly, it's not just about the pain that's alleviated. They feel embodied. They actually feel in control of their body once again, and that
Right.
brings them hope.
Yeah. So it's kind of grounded them and brought their spirit back into their body to merge together, kind of. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, the great thing is when I first started, at this, so it's the Medical College of Virginia and the Virginia Commonwealth University Health System. That's what VCU stands
Hmm.
for. They viewed this modality as complementary,
Hmm.
just something that would be
Right.
great as a holistic means. And it is. Interestingly, after working there for about 6 months, um, they're they're still accepting it as a complementary modality, but there's a new edge to it. They need it. They actually, I think by practice they have to still call it that, but
Uh,
they want it. If
right.
I'm there, they're asking me, where am I? Because patients and their families are are
Seeing
asking
the
for it
benefit, seeing
again,
the benefit. Yeah. Are
right?
you also healing, or is it, I mean, taking away pain is healing, but are you also healing some of the things that are not working that are causing the pain? Can you do that with the sound?
There's a lot of kind of specific physiological effects that can take place with
Hmm.
sound.
Right.
I think it depends on the intention. Number one, intention is everything.
Right. Right.
I've noticed that in my practice.
Hmm.
Um, Also the environment as well.
Yeah.
Um, so for example, when I am in the hospital, usually the healing that takes place is for the chronic pain.
Hmm.
That's that's the diagnostic goal, right?
Right.
But but also there's an emotional goal as well. There's an
Yeah.
emotional body that I'm targeting as
Hmm.
well. And that's connection,
Yeah.
being connected. I think that's easy to lose focus of for
Hmm.
the general picture of healing is that
Right.
we are trying to link the disconnect so that people can feel not only just connected, but attuned, balanced, grounded, and then they are the ones that are springing forward.
Right.
That's the whole plan. That's the whole goal of frequency and sound, meditation, any kind of practice is
Hmm.
that we're just trying to get reconnected.
Yeah. Now, do you, so you'll go in and you'll put the bowls around the patient, right? How do you know what bowl to use? I mean, you have
Okay,
a number of different bowls, different vibrations, different sounds, right? Yeah.
that's an excellent question. So, I used 432 hertz. That is really important. I think that there is a general kind of debate over 440, 432, but
Hmm.
432 is proven to be the most harmonious frequency in nature.
Hmm.
Also, the octahedron, which is a platonic solid that I didn't really talk about, but I'll mention, each solid has a symmetry group. The octahedron symbolizes air,
Hmm.
and 432 is its symmetry group. So
Okay.
I won't go into that, but there's a synchronicity there, and it is
Hmm.
meaning. It's actually meaningful coincidence, not a synchronicity. Sorry, it's a meaningful coincidence. But anyway,
Only a
so
scientist would say something like that. Would see the difference, okay.
well,
Yeah.
Bernie Beitman, Dr. Bernie Beitman is a colleague of mine,
Hmm.
and I've also with sound did a study where I wanted to see how, not to get off track, but I
No,
just
go
wanted
off.
a
That's what we
quick
do
note
here. Yeah.
that
We
I
follow
just
the curiosity.
yeah, there's a quick note about that. So um I did a study to see, it was independent. I wanted to see how sound, if sound can impact a person's perceptual awareness towards
Mhm.
synchronicity in their life.
Yeah.
So to distinguish the two, um, synchronicity is when two events happen between two different people, or maybe two events happen in a person's life that are separate, completely
Mhm.
separate from each other, um, that they're separate, but they don't necessarily have relevance to each other, but you notice them,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you're
I mean,
looking for why they happen together. I don't know if you get the answer, but you look.
right. And
Yeah.
there's actually like there's no system yet in place. And I don't think we're close to getting to that system, but we
Right.
are drawing more awareness towards synchronicity in general, which is
Mhm.
a wonderful section of anomalous experiences and cognitive
Right.
study.
Well, we know statistically that was way out of line for that to happen, if not impossible. But we don't know
Right,
why. We don't know the why.
right.
Yeah.
And the hardest part of that is calculating the probability.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is the hardest part of this.
Oh, I
Trust me,
bet.
I know
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
study.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but then the meaningful coincidences is when there are two things that happen
Hmm.
and they have meaning towards each other. They you have a special connection to these flow of events. So
Hmm.
one has relevance and special connection, and the other one you just notice,
Yeah. Yeah.
though they might not be related to each other. Yes. So
Hmm.
those are differences. I wanted to study sound and synchronicity. So that's why I distinguished synchronicity, not coincidence.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
I had to nail that out.
Yeah. 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 No, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
So, okay, so you asked, how do I know which frequency?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I go into a session, um, I stopped doing this because I've done over 500 sessions now,
Mhm.
and I'm more of a reader now. Like I
Right.
can understand,
Intuitively, you can know.
right?
Yeah.
Um, I think you can relate to this in,
Mhm.
in your own
Yeah.
practice, but with frequency, there is this transference that occurs, where we both, the patient and I, or the participant and I, we both sort of go into meta. We
Hmm.
go into the clouds together, and
Right.
we just one. We become one of the same field.
Hmm. Wow.
And I know where they're hurting. I know what trauma they're going through. And sometimes I know like what they do for a living and sort of what their challenges or what their
Hmm.
blockages are, right?
Right. They've
So,
opened up to you.
yes, it takes that. It takes being
Hmm.
open, and also wanting to be in that same field together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once I know, each crystal bowl or each frequency, each crystal bowl has a frequency,
Hmm.
and each frequency has a specific effect based off of the energy wheels that each person has. For
Hmm.
instance, um, the crown or the third eye has a much higher frequency, like 900 to 1,000,
Right.
right?
And these
Um,
are the six and seven chakras.
Correct. I'm only focused on the human through, in body
Hmm.
chakras. I know that there is talk about higher chakras
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
focused right in the present moment on the human body. So
Well,
I
the
keep it
pain is in the human body.
right,
So, and
right.
that's what you're going after, really. Or
Yeah,
pain or the need of the human body to support the spirit or ease the
exactly.
spirit. Yeah.
But to support the spirit, one thing that I noticed is I can't just come in and bang some crystal bowls.
Hmm.
It's like warming up, or um washing your fruits or your food before you eat, you have to prepare. You have
Yeah.
to condition the atmosphere. So I create more of a melodic, harmonious tapestry of sound for the person just to melt in.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you mean. To
Yeah,
relax into, because
relax.
before their body's unaware what's happening. Yeah. Am I safe?
And the most of the profound work is when they relax, but they go to sleep.
Mhm.
It's not sleep. They're in a dreamy subconscious state, even if
Right.
they're snoring and that it's a deep sleep. This
Mhm.
this is the time when the frequency can do the most work. So this
Right.
is when we start using specific frequencies to
Mhm.
target the area that needs support.
Yeah. How many bowls do you have?
So I use seven, and then I have one that I only use in more of boutique settings, wellness settings that aren't specific towards clinical systems. And I
Mhm.
only do that because I have more space in these
Mhm.
settings. I can facilitate all of the different elements that I have. Like I go into nature, I collect leaves.
Mhm.
Um, and the leaves tell a story.
Yeah.
Um, I love the sound of the wind. I think people in general like the sound of the wind. It
You
brings them
would
back.
love it here today. Very windy. Yeah. But I know what you mean, especially at the top of trees,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially that wind where you can hear it at the top. There's something what is that? Primordial? I'm saying it wrong. Primordial? No.
Primordial,
Yeah.
primordial,
Would you go there
primordial.
too
Yes.
with me? I'm throwing you off. But there is something at your core that you can feel in your cells that resonates with it. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And that's the same with the bowls, I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I know when I work with kids, the kids, for them, it's finding relief.
Hmm.
The kids have a different goal. It's a subconscious goal.
Yeah.
I think that we live in a time where kids are overwhelmed and there's so much energy that is just stuck and they
Hmm.
don't know it. They don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so when I work with kids, the energy, they actually they relax. They get
Hmm.
into this same state. I have pictures where I'm playing different instruments and they're just kind of they look like they're taking a nap. But
Yeah.
then they wake up and they're so happy and they actually you would think that they're relaxed and they are, but they're like so happy they need to get the energy out now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you got it
Relief.
moving. Yeah.
It's relief.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Um, one thing about the wind I wanted to say is that I recorded a song and the main sound is the wind.
Hmm.
If you listen closely, if you listen closely to any wind outside or in this production, it's talking to it can talk to the listener. It's actually
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
It is.
part of the spiritual sound experience is simply listening.
Hmm. But I feel like you feel it at a cell level. It's almost like bypasses the ear, bypass the hearing. There's something else that you're responding with, I don't know if I explain it well, even though you hear it, but there's something in you that connects, that responds, almost as you say, remembers. There's a memory, or maybe it's a vibration syncing up you know, and the vibration in me is syncing up to the vibration in the wind, which is really what's happening with your bowls too, right?
Yeah, so when our cells, so DNA is shelled
Mhm.
by water.
Oh, you talk about the water. Yeah. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the water.
The water is so significant. It's part of the other, the DNA has two stories and they revolve around each other. One is the DNA molecule, and then one is the water molecule.
Hmm.
And water molecule shells the DNA molecule. And something that's really important here is that our ancestors knew that there is this magical and mysterious essence in water.
Hmm.
They knew.
Yeah, they knew a whole lot more than we know.
It, they passed this knowledge on, but of course it got lost in the years. But now, in an exciting time that we live in, water is starting to become more of an accepted multidimensional element.
Hmm.
Um, there are numbers of water researchers in the field that are showing the profound ability that water has memory of its own. Water is able to retain spin, meaning that when you reduce water, if you have a water molecule and you add, let's say, like a homeopathic substance,
Hmm.
and you know that concentration of it, and you keep diluting it and diluting it and diluting it
Right.
until it has that last molecule, right?
Hmm.
If you let's say you remove that molecule completely, water remembers how that molecule is spinning in the
Wow.
without anything in the water.
Hmm.
That's big. That's a
That's
big thing.
huge. That's
Yeah.
in a way, that's a little frightening.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
how homeopathy was born,
Hmm.
is that the scientist Ben Veniste discovered that.
Hmm.
So
It's
that's
being
why
demonized now, homeopathy, because we want to see it with our naked eye. Science does. And because we can, it's an energetic. Homeopathy is being demonized. And I was always neutral in homeopathy. I just didn't know,
right.
and then I had two cats and I gave homeopathy to them and I could see the response. And I thought, oh, this stuff works great. In fact, I was driving cross country and, cats in cars, not good. And I had medical. It was almost like, a pill for you and a pill for me at this point. But the medical really didn't work. And I gave him the homeopathy and it worked great. It calmed him right down and it worked great. And that's when I realized, oh my God, we may not be able to measure it, but it's there. It's there. And there's no, they can't talk themselves into this. The animals, there's no um, basically talking themselves into it or placebo effect. There is none with animals. So it is truly the homeopathic. So anyway, I wanted to just add that,
No, it's
it's
so important.
right.
I think it's so important. What you're right. There are so many legitimate discoveries
Hmm.
that have been proven
Right.
and are they're demonized.
Right. In fact,
But
when you were talking about the vibration in the bowls and the healing, it did go through my mind. I wonder how the pharmaceutical industry is going to accept that. Can't
um,
be
so
patented.
the thing is, now with this is an interesting intersection that I'm actually exploring right now with another company,
Mhm.
is that sound and frequency, I don't think it'll be attacked in terms of, there won't be a feud between pharmaceutics and sound, because I
Right.
think
They're not
especially
really competing.
they're not competing.
They're complementary.
I mean, music is accepted in science as
Mhm.
healing.
True. Yeah.
Thankfully, music
True.
therapy is the gateway, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so frequency has shown. through thousands, hundreds of studies that it's an effective healing
Mhm.
modality, right? What I think is interesting moving forward is that biotech is going to start exploring how these healing frequencies, such as 432,
Mhm.
the acceptance harmonious frequency, can actually be incorporated into the uh, atmosphere, into the environment, into the supplies, the equipment, the walls, the
Wow.
infrastructure
Yeah.
of hospitals. That's the thing now.
Wow. How can it be?
Yeah,
Because with the bowls, you have to touch it and do the wand around and get the frequency up. But how
it's
would you incorporate it and not keep it going? How would you do that?
it's a new technology that's being considered is actually infusing frequency into the walls where
Hmm.
it's vibrate at 432. And
Wow, that's amazing. That's
it
amazing.
is. There's still a
Yeah.
lot of testing that needs to go into it, but we're starting to see signs of that. Like for
Hmm.
example, a harmonious egg, right? Where you go into this chamber, where you can
Yeah.
literally lay down and all of the walls vibrate at a certain frequency.
When you were
That
talking about that before, I thought, well, where is that? I'll go sit in there.
yeah,
Where's that chamber? Yeah. So
absolutely.
they're starting to have those now.
That's not in a clinical, the harmonious egg is not in a clinical setting. It's more of a recreational.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, it's there right now. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
available, and I forget the name of the inventor. Just it was a woman. I don't want to say the wrong name, but it's
Hmm.
something to look into. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah, definitely. Now, what happens if, let's say, so that's like the universal vibration. That's great for everybody, right?
the universal vibration on this planet. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
on this
Yeah, let's
planet.
bring it down to, yeah. But what happens if you're using,
I'm such an Aquarius. I'm sorry.
oh no, it's good. It's good. But what happens, let's say, if you, so when you go into a hospital setting and you've got the bowls around, and for this person, you perceive that you need this bowl or this frequency. But what about somebody across the hall?
Mm.
Are they getting the benefit of this? And what if it's not their match? Will their body just kind of throw it off? There
The
are a
rooms,
bunch of different questions in that one. Sorry.
it's great. No, it's good. It's good. So the rooms are private, meaning the doors are closed, and because it's a really specific unit floor that I work on,
Hmm.
um, the rooms are soundproof.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah.
it's a very
That's kind of
private,
too bad because I wanted to know, well, what happens to the other people? How does that affect them? You
you
know?
know, I have worked with this interesting woman who was suffering from sickle cell.
Wow.
And it was just horrible to see her, and she was in so much pain. She couldn't
Yeah.
even she was hobbled over
Oh,
the bed,
yeah.
and I was a bit uncomfortable going in. And I said, "Can I get you a nurse? Do you need anything else? I don't have to, be here right now." And she said, "No, please.
Right.
Anything, I'll anything at this point."
Hmm.
So a nurse came in, situated her somehow on the bed so that she's able to sit.
Hmm.
Guess what?
Hmm.
After 15 minutes, her shaking stopped and
Wow.
she was just sitting peacefully. That doesn't mean that the sickle cell is has been
It's
removed,
cured. Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
symptoms have been pacified, relief.
Hmm.
She could feel like she can just sit with, normally.
Now, do you think if you could do that a couple times a day or a couple of days, could you? Because if the body can relax, it might be able to fight the disease off. So do you think that they could actually be cured?
I think that's such a great exploratory roadmap. And
Yeah.
that would be so wonderful just to see how a person responds,
Hmm.
just in, being in peace,
Yeah. Yeah.
allowing the body just to relax. And also I think definitely it's important the environment that the person is in, you
Yeah.
know, because we become that environment. So
Mm.
continuing having a supportive system, eating well, getting
Right.
sleep.
Right.
And then I, when I started my transformation personally, I just simply cut off all sound. I stopped. I was more mindful with what I was listening to. I only listened to frequency music. I disconnected from like radio lyrics, done, no social media, just
I never asked you why did you go into this? What brought you to this? From vaccines to, vibration.
yeah. Um, so I
It's quite the jump.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So that I made two jumps in my career. I worked 10 years cumulatively in the pharmaceutical industry. That was my second leap. The
Hmm.
second time around, I was a little bit more evolved in kind of the direction I wanted to go. I knew it was going to be in healing, but at the time, I was this is when you trust the nature of the spirit, I'm not only talking about 3D nature, I'm talking about nature in your soul, right?
Right. Right.
When you trust and you let go,
Hmm.
the way that you know how or you're inspired to, because let go is kind of a weird,
Right. Most
ambiguous,
people don't know how.
right?
And it's like a free fall too, It's
The
like,
free fall,
yeah.
right? My let go is leaving the
Hmm.
vaccine world.
Right.
And
So
into
you left before you knew about vibration? Wow.
Yep. I made a leap. Yep. I just right off the cliff. And
Yeah.
I listened to frequency music for a whole year, night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw how my body, I was more inward aware,
Hmm.
deep inward.
Right.
I think that there's a
Like
lot of,
what we were talking about with the wind, you respond at a really deep level. I'll call it a biological level, even. There's something so deep in there that responds rather than your ears. Yeah.
yeah. And silence too. Of course,
Yeah.
it just became, I
I don't
silence.
know if I can get silence. I mean, I live in a city, we think it's silence, but in reality, there's so much noise around that, I'm not quite sure what silence sounds like, you know?
For
But you
me,
weren't sick though, because most of the time, people who will go to vibration or sound have become ill or their body's not working or something is pushing them. They're they've come here almost out of a desperate need.
yeah, that happens quite a bit, I
Hmm.
notice with my patients. Actually in more recreational settings.
Hmm.
There's a first sort of uh detox where
Right.
the blockage emerges and it's uncomfortable. And it can come either in pressure or emotions or a headache.
Hmm.
Um, that's very common, actually.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always, before I start, I always say just always give it two tries.
Hmm.
Do it the first time, come back one more, and then judge the experience or
Right.
reflect on it.
Right.
Um,
Why is that? Your body is on alert the first time, hasn't really accepted it yet as
I, I,
being safe in something it wants.
I think that the emotional body relaxes and
Yeah.
the stress, the memory of trauma,
Hmm.
kind of the sickness or the
Right.
the
A
imbalance,
betrayal of your body in a way, that it's
it
gone
actually is
off
trying to come out.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually trying to come out. So that's actually the best thing that can happen, in my opinion, is
Hmm.
but when I got my first sound bath, which started this whole experience, it was 5 hours long.
Oh, wow.
It was a five
And
hour.
it's not, that wouldn't upset your system?
I went into a complete cellular internal slumber. It was
Yeah.
deep
So
reset.
you immediately responded. Yeah.
Yes, and I navigated through so many memories that weren't mine,
Mm.
in this lifetime.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw so many things that I felt so it resonated with me, and then I also it left an imprint on me.
Hmm.
So so going through that experience, I realized this is the direction I need to go because it
Right.
straddled so many dimensions that I'm interested in. And I felt that I could bring this or be one vessel that brings this to more of a clinical,
Hmm.
scientific, under the
Right.
microscope level, because that's
Right.
just
Yeah. Because you have that background and you can do it. And you've got the creds to be able to come in with the balls and say, I've got something here. Yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah, it
Have you
was,
have you ever used tuning forks? And I don't know much about them, but
they're great. I love
are
tuning
they?
forks.
Yeah.
Um, I the tuning forks are really specific. So when I use tuning forks, it's only after the person has gone through, more of the relaxing journey,
Mhm.
more of the deep journey within. And then at the sort of towards the end, I use tuning forks.
Oh,
I
okay.
I call it kind of like a conscious shower
Hmm.
where um it's a shearing, so I shear them. I take the two forks and I just clash them together, and it creates this like really high pitched ring.
Hmm.
Um, and in the beginning, it can feel a little uncomfortable for a person who's not used to it, but then and then it feels oddly pleasant. It's
Yeah.
like taking a cold shower, and
Oh,
then
yeah, I never do that.
just don't know what to do. But then
Yeah.
you get dry and you feel so good. You just feel so
Yeah.
warm, you
Yeah.
know. That's that
Huh.
feeling.
So you do use them at the end then?
Only in wellness setting.
Specific? Yeah.
Yeah, with patients that are in the hospital, they're just too sensitive to
Hmm.
that. So
Right.
it's more important that I maintain the integrity
Yeah. Yeah.
of the experience for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you've used the wrong bowls, I mean, when you're specific to the patient, you're going to be using the right bowls because of the intuitive match, I would think. But if you had just come in with the bowl and without the intuitive match and used it, and that's not where their vibration is at, what happens? Do
That's
they
actually
meet the
happened before.
vibration? Huh? I'm sorry.
Happened before. That's actually happened
Oh, it
before.
has. Oh, okay. So what happened then?
So that's part of the learning process, I would say, when I was going through it, because I've been through a number of sessions and I was,
Well, you said over 500 at this point. Yeah. There
yeah,
aren't many mistakes, I would think. Yeah.
yeah, and this interpreting, just kind of learning, how to read the field.
Hmm.
How do you even, it's hard to teach that into a
Right.
class. You have to go out and experience it.
It's
That's
an
why,
intuitive matching, isn't it?
right.
Yeah.
Um, so what I have found out in this experience is that people still get the frequency.
Hmm.
There's still a frequency exposure,
Hmm.
and their body has simply retuned. Um, I think that there is still, you know, they've still helped, they've been helped, they've been supported, and the frequency is doing its work, but there's
Hmm.
also this sort of emotional reaction that takes place. And that's, like I mentioned, that's normal sometimes. And I know it can be uncomfortable for people,
Hmm.
but when you're receiving frequency, again, I'm making a tapestry of all of these frequencies together.
Right.
And I can't really predict how a person's going to respond. I can just tell from their own field um, what is they need support on. Whether I've interpreted it correctly or not, they're still getting the vibration.
Right.
And most importantly, they're getting the vibration of my intention of being present and helping. They're receiving my loving and healing energy
Hmm.
as well, you
Right.
know?
Your intention. Yeah. Your vibration too.
Right,
Right.
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 So, I'm used to people waking up and just saying, I'm not feeling good right now.
Hmm.
And then I walk them through breathing and even slowing it down again while they're awake.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really important. One thing I wanted to mention, if that's okay,
Yeah.
about energy healing
Hmm.
is I know it's also a matter that is probably not probably it is sort of a pseudoscience, or it's been kind of
Again,
shaped.
science can't put it under a microscope. They can't have it. So, yeah.
Well,
But
actually,
they're aware. Science is very much aware of energy healing, of
right.
the result. They just
Well,
don't know how it happens.
I wanted to actually tell a quick story. I met John Kruth, who is the director at the Ryan Research Center,
Hmm.
and he does bioenergy research. And he
Oh,
was
wow.
sharing about his studies and how he brings in healers,
Hmm.
and he he captures their energy through wavelength. He actually collects their light and
Wow.
and and studies it. So he was sharing how when healers come in, they begin at a baseline of like 200,000 energy units, and then
Hmm.
he seeing how these healers, their energies are climbing up to about, max 400,000 when
Wow.
they're asking them to activate their energy. So what he's doing is proving that it's real, that energy
Hmm.
healing is real, and that there is a partner lab that he works with in Italy, and they do remote healing work as well. And they've proved that the remote healing also
Oh,
is
that's great. Yeah. So, in
yeah.
other words, he can work on someone here and someone there is getting benefit
Yep.
and being tested for it. See, they're
Yeah.
watching it. Oh, that's fabulous. That's back to the consciousness is connected. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Even if a person, like, let's say a person hears or is observing that a study is being blackballed or demonized,
Hmm.
I just want to say one thing about that. There's so many instances of work that is credible, and
Hmm.
it's because of where science is trying to be controlled and the outcome of our future is trying to be um, also modulated. It doesn't reduce the outcome or the
Hmm.
possibility of that experiment. We should be more conscious of our own inner judgment, of our own inner intuition, and
Right.
listening to the truth that we are resonating with. But I just want to say energy healing is real. So is
Very much so.
work.
Yeah.
We are all operating on a psychic level,
Hmm.
and that we're all connected. And if we can all remember that, I think that we are already helping our DNA, just with that, just with accepting that we live in this environmental um, landscaping where a lot of things are possible, things that we probably didn't believe in the past, but we can make a difference in how we are applying ourselves in the world and also what we are choosing to receive.
Hmm.
So by choosing what we receive, we can change who we are. By change, I mean better, become more human, become more alive,
Become
and
more ourselves.
become more ourselves.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. This isn't about fixing. This isn't about, we're not on a crutch. We're getting better each day, and we're getting more connected. So it's about being one in the field together with love, the least technical term on this planet, but yes, with love, and know that there's more on the horizon. But we're in the present moment now.
Now, on the vibrational walls and all, do they need somebody there? Like you're there and you're bringing your vibration of healing in with you, which is also impacting the patient, as well as then the bowls and the vibration of the bowls. But if it's just like the vibrational, I'm going to call them vibrational walls. I don't know what to call that. Are they, is that enough?
So that's something, there's things that we have to look at
Yeah.
more carefully. That's definitely one of them because
Mhm.
presence has a lot to do.
Right.
Presence does help a lot. So yeah, that's still sort of an unknown.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I mentioned. It's more of an exploratory product
Mhm.
roadmap.
And I
Uh,
would also think that with the bowls, the vibration is matching your vibration, is matching their vibration, or their vibration is, but all vibration matches into a healing comfort situation. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to know, can it be done mechanically? Really is what we're talking about. And then the other
that,
thing too is with your bowls, if they take a tape of that and after you leave, they play that tape, do they get the same response?
I always recommend a live experience.
Hmm.
It's just a
Well, I
whole
would
body.
think that's where the vibration itself is, because part of it, like on a tape, you're getting the sound, but are you getting the vibration? I don't know if you can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you're listening to audio, your
Mhm.
brain is receiving the sounds.
Yeah.
So you're modulating the frequency that is modulating your
Mhm.
brainwave entrainment.
Right.
When you are receiving sound live, you are being hugged by
Mhm.
sound
By that
frequency.
vibration. I felt it. I know what you mean. I felt it. I've been between all the bowls and had them all going. Yeah. And there's a vibration connection, recognition that, and that's why I say I don't know that you could get that from a tape, and I don't know about walls, but who knows? Who
Uh,
knows?
I just created a new album that came out. It's about the new sound frequencies, which is part of my book, but I
Hmm.
wanted to create a special listening experience.
Right.
People for not people, but for just the experience of bridging the cosmic and the earthly tones together.
Hmm.
So so what I'm doing is I wanted to create sort of a consciousness altering experience.
Yeah.
And so that's what it is. The music is meant to stimulate how we are receiving information and consciousness because it
Hmm.
takes us kind of to the imaginal plane and connects us to the deeper roots of who we are through the frequency. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is that I think it depends on what the sound is and how it's
Well, you
composed.
said you listened to vibrational music for a year. I'm not quite
Mhm.
sure what vibrational music is, to be honest, I guess. But that's also what we're talking about. If you take tape of the bowls when you're, do you get the vibrational? But you said you did for a year. You listened to vibrational music.
It's about connecting. Again, everything is connection
Mhm.
of the mind and the body and the spirit
Right.
as.
Yeah,
And when we listen to pure vibration, I mean, everything around us is vibration.
it
But
is.
if
Yeah.
but if we listen to like the ancients created sound in the underground temples just by using the vibrations of the architecture,
Hmm.
surround ourselves in that completely, immerse. That's
Yeah.
all that you become. You become the vibration. You are the vibration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Over some time, you evolve into it. It's an adaptation. It's the coolest part about us having DNA as we evolve, right?
Hmm.
So you just become this resonant structure that you were describing actually perfectly, is that we all, the basic principles of vibration is that everything in this universe operates as a resonant structure of something. So the question then becomes, what are we resonating to then?
Yeah. Yeah. Or are we alone and we kind of just, it just goes down and down and down and down? Do we need that outside vibration to keep us up, to match? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like let's also remember the whole plan of evolution. That's really important. The whole
Yeah.
plan of evolution is to remove this illusion of separateness. We are all wanting to create individual consciousness together. Let's string it
Yeah.
together. That's the
Yeah.
whole plan of evolution. So let's keep the goal of connectedness at the forefront.
Hmm.
We
And
just want to reset what.
quantum theory now is very much into it's all connected. It's all connected. And they're coming out and printing papers, research papers on it. But didn't they always do that where they had the monkey in one side of the world, learned how to crack a nut a certain way, and then they see the monkey over here do the exact same thing, and there was no way for that information to come over? Do you know what I'm talking about? There was an observation maybe, that was done a long time ago that how do they know? How is something done in India, let's say? And then the species learns it here at almost the same time. How is this possible? And we see it with ideas, where, all of a sudden there's an invention and five different people had the same invention all over the world. It's like, in the ethers, it's a connection, consciousness connection.
That's
Yeah.
synchronicity right there.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That word isn't good enough for that. You know. But let me ask, 5.5 hours, can you overdo the vibrations in the bowls? Can you overdo it? 5.5 hours, if you were going to overdo it, it would have been right there.
No, when I awoke, I felt so hydrated.
Mm,
For 5.5 hours, I didn't feel hungry. I felt hydrated and energetic.
wow.
Like my cells felt replenished.
Mm,
I think I could have kept going, absolutely.
wow.
Um, but I felt prime.
Yeah, yeah. That's a long time. Who
Yeah.
did that for you for that long?
And Desta, he was my first sound, um, kind of sound
Teacher?
mystical experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So now you're working with people. You're in Richmond, Virginia, and you're working with people there. But can you do this over the internet at all, or it can't be done like that?
Yeah, it can be done over the internet. I've done it over the internet.
Mhm.
Um, I want to take two elements and bring them together. One is that remote healing happens, as it's been accepted by the NIH in the 90s.
Right.
Um, so that's the first one. And second is that there are instances where people, they need assistance in their homes. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that it is effective. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though it's not in real time, I do believe that, and maybe the sounds aren't exactly as they are amplified in real time, there's still that element of non-local healing that's taking place and
Yeah.
the connection that is being nurtured in that moment
Mm-hmm.
through sound and intention.
And through the
Inten-
sounds, it's a vibration as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sound is a vibration, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Frequency vibration.
Have
Mhm.
you ever perceived color? To me, color and vibration and sound all go together in the larger cosmos. I don't know why I think that, but I think that. I think
Yeah.
somehow they're all together. So, have you ever perceived that?
Yes, absolutely. Chromesthesia. So
Oh,
the
there's a
sound.
word for it.
Yeah,
Oh,
there is.
okay. Yeah.
Um, and that's actually a wonderful way to perceive the movement of energy,
Hmm.
um, which I think it seems like it happens naturally for you. But this idea was actually brought forth, I think, by a Russian scientist in the
Yeah.
earlier part of the century. But he created a system where he had there's actually a pitch to sound, or sorry, a pitch to color calculator. So
Mm.
you can take the wavelength of a color and then translate it as a frequency as well. But you can make different systems up.
Right.
For instance, like you can
But you can
create,
make it into a sound, a color you can make into a sound. Wow. Huh.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. Now I want the keyboard that does that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a project that I'm currently interested in doing that involves plotting
Mhm.
color as sound.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's some people that with words, like somehow something's a little off and with words they see colors. There's a very small subset of people that they see colors with sound. And
Mhm.
that's how it's almost how they read in a way, that they can see color. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
it
It's
really
all
is.
very fascinating, really.
Just being human and fantasizing, using the imagination.
Yeah.
Asia, I mean,
Hmm.
there's so many opportunities. That's why my book has so many different keys. I don't limit it to just, it's
Right.
not a scientific book. I just want to
Hmm.
be very clear. It
Right.
has a good mix of spirituality, not just science and spirituality, but myth, love,
Right.
uh, the
Right.
ancestral realm, animals. I talk
Hmm.
about gematria for a little bit, which is also an ancient practice of
I'm
reading
sorry,
numbers.
say that again. You talked about,
Gematria. Gematria, it's the alphanumeric.
I read it in there, but you're going to have to explain it.
So gematria is the alphanumeric uh, decoding of letters to numbers.
Hmm.
So the significance of this is being able to compare certain ideas having the same numerical equivalence. And you know, really drawing upon how many, like just that connection alone. In Greek, it's called isopsophia, but in general, it's like a lexarithmic, which is lexa meaning word, rhythmic,
Hmm.
math,
Right.
putting them together and then finding those coincidences.
Is that coding?
Coding, yeah, it's a part of spiritual kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
meta coding.
Yeah, metacoding. That is. No, the book actually, there are some parts of it that were like, what, got big words kind of thing. But there were some parts that were very easily readable, and enjoyable and fascinating. You talk about grief and what grief is to the human nature, to the cosmos, what grief is, and then the memory of that memory is always with you and with everyone and comes through the DNA. The DNA is it's just fascinating. And we're just scratching the surface of what is this. Yeah. What is
Yeah,
this? Fascinating. Yeah.
there's more to come. Just
There
gotta
is.
stay on
Yeah.
for the show.
Right, right. And I hope we're up to it. Yeah, I hope we're up to it. So, thanks so much for being on the show. I've really enjoyed it. And I want you
Thank you.
to share with everybody where they can get hold of you to maybe, work with you or learn more about it and where they can get your book and all of that.
Thank you so much, Barb, and thank you to everyone listening. So my website is my full name, RUSLANAREMENNIKOVA.com.
Mhm.
I have my book available through Inner Traditions, at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop. I'm trying to think of Books a Million, all
Metaphysical bookstores. Yeah. Because
the
I know they'll
bookstore.
have a lot of books too. Yeah.
And I currently have my New Sound Frequency music album out, available on my website.
Oh, that's
And
great. Yeah.
uh, yeah, I do all kinds of things, sound sessions or coaching sessions.
And they can get hold of you directly to work with
Yeah,
you directly. Yeah.
my email is contact@ruslanahermenikova.com. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Great. Thanks so much for being on. I really enjoyed it.
Me too, Barb. Thanks for all of the wonderful conversations and
It was
questions.
enlightening. Thank you. Bye bye.